Most people look at their struggles and immediately think their life is unfair. They see obstacles, delays, pain, rejection, failure, and they ask the same painful question: why me? They compare their journey to other people's lives and wonder why everything seems easier for everyone else. But sometimes, the very thing you call a curse today becomes the reason you survive tomorrow. Today's story is about a young farmer named David who spent years hating the very thing that later saved his life. And maybe, after hearing this story, you will start seeing your own struggles differently too. In a small village surrounded by mountains, there lived a young farmer named David. His father had died years earlier and left him a small piece of land. But there was one big problem. The land was covered with rocks. Big rocks. Sharp rocks. Heavy rocks. No matter where David looked, there were stones everywhere. The other farmers in the village had soft, rich soil. Their crops grew easily. Their fields looked beautiful. But David's land looked cursed. People in the village often whispered, "Poor David. His father left him useless land. Nothing will ever grow there." At first, David tried to stay hopeful. Every morning before sunrise, he carried his tools into the field and worked for hours under the hot sun. But farming became a nightmare. His plow constantly hit rocks and broke apart. Seeds refused to grow properly. Water disappeared too quickly. No matter how hard he worked, nothing changed. Slowly, frustration turned into anger. At night, David would stare at the sky and ask God, "Why did you give me this land? Why is everyone else blessed except me? What did I do wrong?" Deep inside, he truly believed life had been unfair to him. Then one year, disaster came to the village, a terrible drought. Week after week, the sky stayed empty. No rain, no clouds. Only heat. The rivers became smaller. The wells started drying up. The soil cracked under the burning sun. Fear spread through the entire village. Farmers watched helplessly as their crops slowly died. Even the richest farmers could do nothing. David was terrified too. He expected his rocky land to fail first. But one morning, while walking through his field, he noticed something strange. Between the rocks, tiny drops of moisture still remained. David knelt down in disbelief. The ground beneath the rocks was still damp. The stones were protecting the soil from the sun. While smooth fields dried quickly, the rocks were trapping moisture underground. For the first time in his life, David looked at his land differently. Carefully, he began planting seeds in the small spaces between the stones. Every day he watered them with whatever little moisture he could find. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Across the village, crops continued dying. Fields turned into dry deserts. But on David's land, small green plants began appearing. Life was growing between the rocks. The same rocks he once hated were now protecting his crops. They shaded the roots. They preserved water. They kept the soil alive. And when harvest season finally arrived, something unbelievable happened. David had the only successful harvest in the entire village. While others had empty fields, his land was full of food. The villagers were shocked. People gathered around his farm in disbelief. One farmer asked, "David, how is this possible? Your land was the worst in the village." David looked across the rocky field with tears in his eyes. Then he said quietly, "I spent years cursing these rocks. I thought God punished me. But God knew something I didn't. He paused and looked down at the stones. He knew the drought was coming. The crowd became silent. David continued. What I thought was my biggest curse became my greatest protection. Later that evening, the village elder came to visit David. The old man looked across the field and smiled gently. My son, he said, today you learned one of life's greatest lessons. God does not always give people what they want. He gives them what they will need. Those words stayed in David's heart forever. From that day forward, David changed completely. Instead of feeling bitter, he became grateful. He shared his harvest with struggling families. He helped the same people who once mocked him. And whenever someone complained about life, David would take them to his field and point toward the rocks. Then he would say, "See these stones? I used to hate them every single day. But they saved my life." Sometimes the things blocking your path are actually protecting your future. Sometimes your struggles are preparing you for storms you cannot see yet. Years passed. More droughts came to the region. Again and again, farms failed. But David's land always survived. Eventually, his rocky field became the most valuable land in the village. People traveled from far away to learn his farming method, but David always gave them the same lesson. Never curse what God has given you. Do not compare your life to other people's lives. Some people are given smooth roads. Others are given rocky roads. But both are part of God's perfect plan. And honestly, this lesson is bigger than farming. Maybe right now, your life also feels full of rocks, problems, pain, delays, failures, loneliness, rejection. Maybe you are asking God, why is my journey so difficult? But what if those rocks are there for a reason? What if your struggles are preparing you for a future challenge? What if the pain you hate today becomes the reason you survive tomorrow? Life does not always make sense in the moment. But sometimes God protects us in ways we cannot understand yet. Your hardships are not always punishments. Sometimes they are protection. Sometimes they are preparation. And sometimes they are hidden blessings. So do not give up on your rocky field. Do not abandon your journey just because it looks harder than everyone else's. One day, your harvest will come too. And when it does, you may finally understand why the rocks had to be there all along. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who is struggling right now. And subscribe to Tales by Hasiba for more emotional stories, deep life lessons, and motivational storytelling that inspires faith, strength, and hope. Remember this: your rocks are not your curse. They may be the very thing saving your future.